Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. I have received a handful of questions from people and requests for this particular video, and that is a review of all of the modifications I have made to my KTM 390 Adventure. Now, I just hit the 14-month mark of owning this bike, and I just hit, or I'm going to hit in the next couple of miles, the 14,000 mile mark of riding this bike. So I thought now would be a good time to go ahead and do this video. Nearly every modification I've done to this bike, except for a few small ones here and there, have supporting videos. So if there's something of interest that you see on here, I will try to leave links in the description for those videos. Otherwise, if you just go through my list of videos, you'll find the items that I talk about on the bike and can go through those for more detail. For this, I'm just going to talk about each of the things I've done. I'm not going to go in full detail because I have done those other videos, and this would be really, really long if I tried to go through all the details. So I will talk to you about each of the things that I've done. We'll go from there, so stick around if this is something that interests you. One of the first modifications that's really easy to see is the spoked wheels. So I did this about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, because I found a flat spot or a little bit of a dent in my previous wheels, and also because it appeared KTM was going to discontinue these wheels. The manufacturers or the companies that carry these in the US, when I contacted them, said that the part number had been discontinued and there was no replacement, and they had no delivery time on new wheels. So that's why I did the wheels. The next thing that I did is I replaced the fork springs with the Hyper Pro fork springs, the progressive fork springs, and that made a world of difference. In doing that, I was able to get the compression dampening right about midpoint and open up the rebound a little bit so that it's a little bit faster. And I rarely, if ever, bottom this out. I get close, but I don't bottom it out like I was on the stock springs. The other reason to do this is it gets your sag to ride around that 30% mark, which is what you should be riding at, where the previous springs, my sag was well over 40%. So that is a great upgrade. I really recommend doing that as well. I upgraded the windscreen. The original windscreen was really, really short, and it put a lot of wind pressure on my chest and shoulders that I didn't like because I do a lot of road riding. To get to the areas I'm going to do a lot of off-road riding. I don't trailer my bike, I don't truck my bike anywhere, I ride it there. So I upgraded to the GV windscreen, which also required having to put in a bracket in the back. And now you'll see that I have this extension on here. I only run this extension when I'm going to be on the road. If I'm going to be off-road, I take it off. But this just gets the wind up over my helmet because I have a camera on one side of my helmet and comms on the other. It makes it quite noisy. So I do this just to get that slipstream over my helmet. If you don't have those types of things hanging off your helmet, you probably don't need the extension. It just quiets my helmet down a little bit. Also, right from the front, you can see that I have the double take mirrors. That was one of the early things that I did. I like these. If you look at the clutch and front brake perches, if you were to come down awkwardly on your mirrors, you have the potential to break that perch. And if you break that perch, then you don't have a clutch or a brake. So by putting the double take mirrors on there, they will fold away if you come down in an awkward position without breaking your clutch or brake perch, or at least that's in theory what should happen, is that shouldn't break. So that was one of the really important things I thought needed to be done on this bike. Now up front with the controls, one of the other things I did is I put bar risers on here. I have a video on the bar risers if that's something that interests you. It was pretty simple to do. It made a big difference. There was enough clutch cable to add. I think they might even be 30 millimeter. I can't remember if they're 25 or 30 millimeter bar risers, but that was really worthwhile doing. And then I think the camera will show it. I have an Atlas throttle lock on here. I didn't want to do the Keiko or any of the twist or any of the little plastic ones. I went ahead and splurged for the Atlas throttle lock. It has worked really, really well. The only issue I've had with it is the rubber pad that sticks to the switch gear here is when it's really hot, it'll slip off. So I've had to make a few modifications. Not a big deal, but that has worked really well. The other thing up front that I'm not sure the camera will show, I'll get a different view of it, is I have a small thermometer that I've added to the front of the bike. The reason I did that is when so that I would know the temperature when I'm out riding. Now, there are some times where you get direct sunlight on this and it's not accurate, but I would say about 80% of the time the temperature on here is accurate. I like it when I go camping because when I'm camping, I can see when I go to bed what the temperature is. When I get up in the morning, I can see what the temperature is, and that helps me determine what I need to wear, what type of clothing I'm going to put on when I get started in the morning riding. So that I really like that. I don't know if this will necessarily qualify as a modification, but I have a Tusk Olympus tank bag. I think it's a 7.5 liter, 7 liter. This works perfectly for me. It does everything I need it to. I like the size of it. It's not overly big. It doesn't get in the way when I'm standing up riding off-road. So this, as far as modifications or things I've done to the bike, I have put this on pretty much right after I got the bike, and it's worked great. One of the most important upgrades you can make to this bike is putting the Black Dog CycleWorks skid plate on it, because the skid plate that comes on it, the stock one, mounts on a rail to the bottom of the engine. So any impact that goes into that skid plate, it's going to get put into the engine. So it's going to get transmitted into the engine. That was unacceptable to me because I do ride some really rough stuff and have a tendency to bang through things and have stuff kick up into the skid plate. So I did that once they became available, and it was a fantastic thing to do. In addition to that, I really recommend getting the Black Dog CycleWorks foot pegs. They lower the foot peg down about 1/2 inch, but more importantly, they level the foot peg out so that it's not canted forward like the stock ones. And these are a huge platform. They're a big off-road foot peg. They have been fantastic. I have nothing but praise for these. I really, really recommend that. The other addition, modification that I have is I have these little crash bar bags. I keep a puncture repair kit on one side with a small rechargeable compressor, and then on the other side I keep my toolkit. One is it makes it really accessible when I'm out on the trail. I don't have to pull everything out of my saddlebags, and the other is it moves some weight forward so there isn't so much weight on the back, and it balances the bike out a little bit more. Some of the modifications I'm going to talk about now, you're not necessarily going to be able to see, but I have done videos on those, but it's the effect of them that matters the most. So the first one is, under all of this is a tail rack. I purchased a tail rack and a pannier rack from Zana International, which was an Indian company, last fall. The reason I did that was, at that point in time, the KTM 390 Adventure was very new to the US market, and there wasn't any other products available. Now there's some other stuff that's out there. I've been completely happy with what I got from Zana International, and for the price, I got the pannier rack and the tail rack for $200. I think it was $220, and that included shipping from India. It only took about 4 weeks. Really couldn't beat that. The stuff that you find now for the 390 Adventure, the racks, are going to be a typical cost. So give that some consideration if you're looking to add a pannier racks or a tail rack. Now, I have Wolfman pannier bags on here, saddle bags, and the reason I'm running these is at Overland Expo Mountain. They had these in their bargain bin, and I got a set for $200. I couldn't beat that. I was running some Tusk before, but at that price, these are very, very durable. It was something I wanted from quite some time ago, but I couldn't see myself spending over $500. So $200 for those made it worthwhile. I really like them. I've done a couple trips on them now, and they've worked out great. I have these little bottle bags on the front and back. The reason I do that is because I put little miscellaneous things, and I also carry water. In those. I carry chain lube in them. I carry my fuel for my stove in these as well. The things that I don't want mixed in with my regular bags, I put that in these little ones. And then I also carry in this other stuff. I carry little battery packs, and then I'll put trash and stuff in there. So there's little miscellaneous things. What I also have under here is a 1 gallon Roto Packs. I haven't used it in a while. I had put it on before going to Baja because I wasn't sure what the fuel availability was going to be. I ended up using it, I think, only one time. And then I did end up needing fuel when I was doing my trip up to Yellowstone down to Overland Expo Mountain West. So I was glad I had that fuel. It was on the way back. There was some areas of Nevada that fuel services were like 100, and I think one of them was 150 miles and I had already gone 40, so I was glad I had the extra fuel. I have a GV, I don't even know, I call it a tail bag. I think it's meant to go on the side of panniers. It's huge. It's 20 liters. This is what I carry my drone and camera equipment in. I'll put extra gloves in here, extra straps, just a few things. I carry my tripod on the back of this just because it's a convenient place to be able to take it on and off while I'm riding if I want to do some filming. Things I haven't done a video on is the foot enlarger for the kickstand. It didn't seem worthwhile doing, so I haven't. But that is a basically, I think, a Chinese made kickstand foot for a 500 EXC. I had to take a Dremel tool and carve it out a little bit to get it to fit, but it was a very little modification. But yeah, that's one of the things that you won't find in the video. I think there are some companies now that are actually making them that fit better, but it's pretty similar to a lot of the other kickstand feet. I think it's a typical size that KTM uses. Now this last thing here is the Ergo Seat. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know that I went with a seat concept seat, and I just wasn't happy with it, so I picked up the Ergo Seat, and I'll be doing a separate video on it to give you my thoughts, but that was a modification that I've also done. That is all of the modifications that I have made to this bike so far. Now I have a few more modifications that I am planning, and that would be the exhaust. That's something I want to do, is put a new exhaust on, partly to drop some weight and also to get a little bit better sound. There are a few other things that I'm considering, but I don't know if I'm going to do them, so I'll just leave those off the list, and then if I do end up making those modifications, I'll have some videos out for you all to take a look at. So I hope this is useful. If you have one of these bikes and you're thinking about making some of these modifications, if you have any questions about them and you don't find the answers in the videos that I've already done, leave questions in the comments below. If you've made other modifications to your bike that you think are really useful, also leave those in the comments below too, because I'm always interested to see what other people have done, to see if it's something I may consider doing as well. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there.